Welcome. I'm Pat Soldano, president of Family Enterprise USA. We promote family businesses and their job growth in the United States for multi-generationally owned family businesses. And I'm very pleased to have with me today Mike Davis, who is president of Industrial Roofing Company, who is located in Lewiston, Maine, and is also in Massachusetts. Mike's going to tell us a little bit about his business. So let's start with the history and maybe just a description of what you do and how you do it.
Sure. Thanks, Pat. And thanks for all you do for family business. Yeah, as you mentioned, we're Northern New England's largest commercial roofing and siding company. Our company was actually founded in 1945, so over 75 years ago. It was a family business right from the beginning, started by a gentleman by the name of Bill St. Hilaire. And he started as a steeplejack working on steep churches and things like that, and ranged everything from working on homes and apartment buildings in the area. And we gradually transitioned to a completely focused commercial roofing and siding firm back then. We're currently, we say, in the fourth generation of the family business, where Dennis St. Hilaire is my partner. And there's a couple of us that are also owners, originally non-family members, but we've kind of added a few branches to the family tree.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about the number of employees and maybe some of the specific work that you do.
Sure. Yeah, we're over 100 employees. We do commercial projects and services. So we take care of schools, grocery stores, office buildings, warehouses. If it's a commercial business, we're involved. It's one of the wonderful things I like about our business is that we get to interact with so many different type of companies, and we get to learn about their challenges and what they're doing. And it's really unique. We like to say that we protect the people and businesses in our area. As you can imagine, having a good roof over your head is one of the most important things, and we take great pride in that.
And you're focused primarily in Maine and Massachusetts. Do you do work outside of those two states?
We have traveled. We've done work in Puerto Rico. We've done work in New York and other states, New Jersey, really throughout all of New England for sure. But more and more, we're focused really right around our offices, probably about a 2-hour driving window from each of our offices, because we want our people to be able to come home every night and be with their families. And so we've really kind of focused on being able to do that.
Well, so I would imagine that with what's the focus around climate change and some of the change in our climates, more fires, hotter temperatures, those kinds of things, the materials that you may be using today are different than they were 20, 30 years ago. I can't imagine that there's also some regulation changes around what you're doing, what you're using, not only product, but how you're installing. Could you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, those changes that we have, the changes in weather this year, for example, we've had a record number of leak calls, and it's not just because we're growing, it's because the weather has become more extreme. You know, sometimes we get 6 or 8 inches of rain in one storm when that really never used to happen in this area. So we've become a very important partner for our customers. When these leak events happen, they want us there. And so we've really had to focus on service. Beyond climate, we have regulation changes. So that might be building codes, and building codes are constantly changing. You know, every couple of years, there's pretty major changes. And those are also impactful to us, and they're impactful to our customers. Our costs have gone up because of those changes pretty substantially. We now have to add quite a bit more insulation than we used to have to add, for example. And that's just another challenge for business owners and property owners. The cost of, you know, maintaining their properties has gone up substantially. And then there's also, you know, the environmental regulations around lower VOC products and chemical compositions of what we can use for safety and things like that. So we kind of get hit from multiple sides on all those concerns.
Well, so I'm sure that you and the family and the employees of the business are involved in the community. So maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that involvement. What do you do for the community that you work in?
Sure. As you can imagine, as a family business in this community for such a long time, it's a huge part of who we are. And we do everything, like you'd imagine, the small little league teams and things like that. But we also, as we've grown, we've been able to do even more. Just this past year, for example, we made substantial donations to a brand new local cancer care center. In our area, we have one of the highest incidents of cancer in the area. And so we are very proud to be able to do that, given how many of our family members have been affected by that. Another example is a new children's museum was built in our area, and we're super proud to not only work on the project, but make a substantial economic donation to the project as well. And then lastly, we've talked to our team, and we consider our team all family members, and we asked for their input. And this year they said they wanted to do more. And as an example, they thought about Habitat for Humanity. And just a couple of weeks ago, our guys signed up, and the crew put a brand new roof on a new Habitat for Humanity house. And it wasn't just us as, owners saying, hey, you have to do that. It was just the opposite. It was actually our whole team that said, hey, we want to do more for our community. And we were super proud to support that.
Well, as you should be. That's excellent. And I'm sure the community really, really appreciates that. So, and it is so nice that, as you said, it's not just initiated by you as owners and managers of the business, but the team members and all the employees, and they participate. So we find that true of so many family businesses. They're so involved in their community, and they're so helpful. So let's talk a little bit about the regulations. Again, you mentioned there are more regulations with the new climate change and the focus on that. But there are also changes in tax and economic policy, and every Congress does things a little differently. Are there specific tax policies or economic policies that have affected the business as well as the families within the business? I realize that there are non-family owners as well as family owners, but maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Well, it's, as you can imagine, roofing is a very traditional business, a very kind of old school industry, if you will. And so we're not exactly the most nimble and fast moving enterprise in the world. We take very long-term views of things. Our roofs last 30 years, and we've had some customers that we're on the second roof or sometimes the third roof, et cetera. So we have a long-term view on things. And one of the biggest challenges, just from a big picture perspective, is trying to plan in an era of constant changes and ups and downs with regulations. Every election cycle, it seems like things are going in a different path. So the inconsistency is very challenging. We've also recently just gone through a transition where the third generation was able to retire. And, we spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in trying to plan to make sure that we, handled that transition appropriately and made sure the organization was set up appropriately, some of which is just guessing based on what legislation is going to be, and then just trying to figure out how to migrate all those different things into the next generation. So that consistency is a big challenge. And then the obvious ones are income taxes, right? In individual income taxes. A lot of people might have heard the term pass-through entities, but a lot of people don't really understand what that means. So anytime that you affect those income taxes, our business is a pass-through entity. It's really just taking money from the company that we could be reinvesting in our equipment and our people, and sending it to Washington. So that income tax is a big consideration. And then lastly, I would say estate taxes. If something were to happen to me, it would be a significant issue. And you obviously try to plan for that, but big corporations don't have to worry about that. If their CAO unfortunately passes away, it doesn't really affect, create a tax event like it does in a family company.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, the pass-through entities, because you're right. A lot of people don't understand that. But we've done the research, and we've determined almost 80% of family businesses in America operate through these pass-through entities. So an S Corp, an LLC, or an LP. And what they don't understand, Congress, I don't even think sometimes understands, certainly the voter doesn't, that as a pass-through entity, you're paying ordinary income tax rates of 35% plus Whereas a regular corporation, which most public companies are, they get to pay 21%. So it's, as you said, it's a huge drag on the business. And through this last Congress, the Build Back Better Act, it was going to be worse. They were going to increase. It was going to have a surtax, and they were going to reduce some of the benefits around 199A, which is some of the deductions you can get if you are a pass-through, which are very, very modest. So we are also concerned as an organization about some of these changes that Congress could be making. So again, I'm really glad you brought that up. And income tax tends to be the #1 issue for family businesses in America. But let's talk about this, Congress coming up. Not making a political statement, doesn't matter which parties are in control, but if Congress could do anything to help you, help your industry, help your business, do you have any ideas for them in terms of what legislation would be helpful?
Beyond keeping income taxes in check, beyond that, I think, that certainly is probably the biggest one. And I just can't stress it enough. Before I was an owner in a business, I really didn't comprehend how that really worked. And now, every quarter I have to write these checks, and it's not as though it's coming from, my bank account per se, because the company does sort of help me pay those taxes, but it's money that from a cash flow perspective, I would be reinvesting and buying new trucks and giving people raises and things like that. So it's just, something that you really can't stress enough for people to really try to understand as they're making that legislation. Beyond the taxes and that obvious issue, our business, like many other family businesses, struggles with adding to our workforce. We really take pride in being a great place to work. But in general, as you know, in society, we haven't put a lot of people into the trades the last, couple of decades. Everybody had to go to college and try to get a white collar job. Well, we're really suffering from that. Maine is the oldest state in the country. And, a lot of our people, some have been with us for 30 years, and they're getting ready to retire, and we need to find that next generation. So we're really hoping that Congress really spends time looking at workforce development, career and technical education funding. It is so small compared to what regular colleges and universities have gotten in the last couple of decades. So we really hope to see that shift, and we can kind of build America again, literally, with more people getting back into the trades. In our company, for example, we've created the IRC Academy. And so we're the first registered apprenticeship program in Maine for roofing contractors. And people will have a 2-year program that's completely paid. They can learn on the job. And in our classroom, we've built a beautiful classroom and a shop training area. And so we've gotten some support through the Maine Department of Labor for that. And we're investing it right back into our people, and their careers are going to grow. Their income is going to go up. They'll be able to pay some more taxes and buy new trucks and things like that. So we're really excited about that. And I hope Congress continues to support that. And then lastly, I would say immigration. Our state, not only is it the oldest state, but it's one of the smallest states from a population standpoint. Last year, we had, by our measures, a huge year where around 10,000 people came to Maine. I know there's some cities that see that almost every month, probably. So we kind of need more people, and immigration has been very inconsistent. And I would just kind of ask that somehow we reach across these aisles and come up with a longer term plan. It can't be every election cycle. It's got to be something that we can be welcoming new people into this country that want to work and want to contribute. And we want to welcome them, bring them into our IRC Academy, train them, and have them join our team.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you're right. People forget that. And kudos to you for the IRC Academy. I mean, that sounds incredible. You're right. Congress really has not helped the non-white collar worker in a long time. And it seems like most of the dollars are going toward formal education as opposed to the kind of education that is necessary for your workers and that you're providing. And so I think that's a really important point, as well as immigration. You're spot on with that. We need a true long-term strategy and immigration policy in this country. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Do you have any final words that you'd like to share on this video?
No, just thank you again for all you're doing. I think, a lot of our family businesses are just like ours. We've kind of kept our heads down. We don't really get involved with politics or even in relationships with our representatives. And not only as an industry, a roofing industry, we're starting to do that more, but with family business as well. And I'm just really excited to have this opportunity to talk with you. Hopefully this message can be shared. And we're just, as a group, family businesses really need to get a louder voice out there, and we appreciate your help in doing so.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate your help, because you're right. These videos are very, very effective. People want to hear the real stories, and you've told a great story. So once again, we really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being on the call, Mike.
Thank you, Pat.